Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. I try to do that nice and soft because I know that Zoom waiting room is there's not a whole lot going on. So it's about time to start. We'll probably give it another minute, but I wanted to welcome you to the webinar. First and foremost, hey, thank you for joining. And what's not to like? It's March 26th. It's opening day of Major League Baseball. A fun fact about that, the Chicago Cubs have won more opening day games than any other major league team at 81. However, even if you're not a Cubs fan, some of the areas we're going to look at today are just south of the city of Chicago. So I thought I'd say that, keep things interesting. So a little bit of housekeeping. Try to get the slide to move. There we go. Within Zoom, you'll see a little ribbon. My ribbon looks more expansive. Yours probably looks smaller than even this one, but there's a couple different features in there. There's a chat, a react. You won't have the share. You won't see the Q&A, but you probably will see the Q&A. You won't see the polls and quizzes. We asked throughout the webinar, hey, if you like something that's going on, you can thumbs up it, you can heart it, you can do whatever. We love the engagement. I will say for Q&A, if you could put that specifically in the Q&A one, that would be awesome. It's just a better way to aggregate it. I know some stuff's going to sneak into the chat. That's perfectly fine. If you want to chat with us directly, go ahead and do it. Mind you, with the Q&A, we do have a dedicated session today after we get through some of the content. All right. So a little bit more housekeeping or meet the panel. I don't know much about a panel if I'm on it, but I'm Corey Baker. I'm the Director of Sales at GEO Jobe. So I'm not going to be doing much here today. I'm kind of kicking this thing off, and I'm going to hand it to really the stars in the show, Jeff and Dan. So Jeff and Dan are both with Barron Weather, and that is one of our partners. So Jeff is a weather and GIS communication specialist, and Dan is a solution engineer and meteorologist at Barron Weather. So they are really the stars of the show. But before we get there, there's a couple things that they make me do. So if you don't know who GEO Jobe is and you found this link or someone shared it and you're like, oh, great, GEO Jobe's putting on a weather and I'm really just interested in the Barron Weather stuff, that's awesome. But they make me talk about the company I work for. So we were founded in 1999, been an Esri business partner since 2002. We're at a platinum tier. There are about 20 business partners that fall in there. Always been an early adopter of Esri's newer technology. So that would be like ArcGIS Align back when it came out, ArcGIS Enterprise, Velocity, and now on to large language models and the AI agents, right? So we never stop evolving within GEO Jobe. Traditionally, we've always been an innovator within the partner network as well. So when we first started, we were just a services-based partner, which there's nothing wrong with that. But in 2014, we made a shift. We released our first product. And since then, the business has kind of diverged or split 50-50. So 50% product customers, 50% professional services customers. But that distribution encompasses 12,000 clients globally. You can see up in the top right of that slide. North American heavy, but that distribution really falls all throughout the world. And then obviously some of our specialties as well. All right. If you don't know about our products, perfectly fine. I will just say the first one that came out was admin tools. The second one came out was actually clean my org in third order there. Then back of my org, then Symphony, and then the component manage my attachments. What I will say on that is if you aren't familiar, if I try to holistically think about our products, they really automate the heavy lifting of ArcGIS administration. So you can focus on that high impact analysis activities inside your organization instead of manual maintenance and things like Portal or ArcGIS Online. From that, if we move down on the slide, US-based support, because of those products, because of those 12,000 customers, we have to have support. Our support is US-based. We also have our GIS services group. They do everything from give you an extra set of hands to get things done. Some would call that staff augmentation, architecting, deploying ArcGIS Enterprise, and really everything in between, solution configuration, things of that nature. Software development or software services. These are the folks that are really versed in Esri's JavaScript API, and they use that experience to build custom web and mobile applications and really extend the capabilities of solutions like Experience Builder with like a custom widget. Moving along, UAV, UAS. division. These are the folks. I call them tiny but mighty. There's not a ton of them here, but they do great work like feature extraction, thermal mapping, multispectral imagery to do things like vegetative health analysis, and then generation of 3D point clouds for sophisticated renderings of, say, an asset. And then last, certainly not least, is the data science division. So they're working with big data and developing scalable solutions by leveraging technologies such as Databricks, utilizing graph theory within ArcGIS knowledge. Also, really, this is where I think the brain trust of GeoJobe sort of lives. And those are folks that are interacting with those large language models and those AI agents as well. So that is it. That is all I'm really going to say about GeoJobe. It's nice to meet you if I've never met you, but thanks for attending. But we are going to get to the meat of this thing. But before we do, there's a couple things we're going to talk about. So one, Barron Weather. They've been our partners since 2024. And they are great folks first and foremost. And that's what we look for in a partner is good people. And then we look to the right of that and go, do they have a great offering? And Barron definitely does. And that's why they're a great partner for us. And I love that Richard Cook quote. The power of the partner ecosystem goes well beyond a partner's direct relationship with Esri. And that's why I'll stop talking. But that is definitely the case. It's partners partnering with partners is really how good things come to life and how relationships are made. So before I kick it off over to them, we do have our first poll question. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention behind the scenes, we got Jonah. Jonah's got the poll up. So the poll, if you care to answer that, do you or your team currently use weather data in your role? And if you don't mind hitting that, we're going to give it probably about 20 or so seconds. Get a little timer here started. All right. All right, Jonah, I think give it about 5 more. And all right, I think you can shut it down. And we should see results. There we go. Thank you so much, Jonah. Do you or your team currently use weather data in your role? So it looks like no is the predominant answer. We got 49%. We got yes at 33% as a free weather source, and then we have 19% has uses a paid service. Awesome. Thank you so much for those answers. We only got one more poll question that's going to come towards the end, so we're not going to hammer you with these things because we want to get you in and looking at Barron weather. So without further ado, like I said, spring forward with smarter weather data with our partner, Barron Weather. So I'm going to leave you in the great hands of Jeff and Dan, and I'll see you guys in the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Corey. We do value that partnership as well. You like our data, we like your software. We use it a lot, so it's a match made in GIS heaven. So thank you for that, and thanks for Jonah for helping orchestrate this webinar. We're honored to be a part of it. I'm Jeff Huffman. I've been with Barron for about 4 years. I was a broadcast meteorologist for 18 years prior to that. I'm going to toss it over to Dan. He's going to tell you a little bit about himself. Then we're going to kind of go over a few things that make our data a little different in GIS. We have 2 events to talk about today, historically, and a surprise near the end as well. Because, Dan, it's nothing like real-time live webinars. Sometimes there's some real-time weather to track, right? Welcome.
That's right. We're going to show some of that later. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Gallagher. I'm a meteorologist and solution engineer here at Barron Weather. Got my bachelor's and master's degrees from St. Louis University. So sorry, Corey, can't go along with your Cubs fandom. Go Cardinals.
Yes, I'm the same way.
But yeah, I've done it all. I've been a researcher, a forecaster, and now I'm on the business side of things. And so that's kind of where I am today. And we're really excited to participate in this webinar with our great partner, GEO Jobe.
Thank you, Dan. I was already looking up at how many games the Cardinals have won in the playoffs compared to the Cubs since he was touting the opening day stuff. But we're happy to be here, and let's dive right into who we are. I'm going to go ahead and share that. We have been around for over 35 years here at Barron Weather since 1989. And confirm with me if you don't mind that I've shared my screen correctly, Dan. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So, 35 years history. We've also many people know us from our time building radars, which we still do, and also we provide weather data and software to a lot of TV stations. About a third of the TV station market around the country. We have a very robust API. We build software services, and more recently, we become a gold partner in Esri. And Dan, speaking of partnerships, we already talked about the partnership we have with GEO Jobe. But we also have many other partnerships, including, believe it or not, partners with other weather providers.
That's right. And really, when it comes to weather, the protection of people and assets, it takes the entire weather enterprise working together. And it is composed of several different elements. You see at the bottom of our pyramid, we have NOAA, National Weather Service. So those government sources of critical weather information that a lot of organizations and government entities depend on for warnings, radar data, satellite forecast models. And then there's the private sector, companies like Barron Weather. The publicly provided information is great, except it's more geared towards general population, general use case, not towards the decisions that a lot of entities on this call are tasked with making. And that's where companies like Barron Weather really come in, applying value-added concepts, particular use cases, and higher resolution, better reliability. And really, the component that brings all that together, the best elements of all those different sources of weather information is ArcGIS. That's where you can pull all the information in and gain insights that you otherwise wouldn't have having that weather information in separate spaces. There is a GIS maturity scale. The first element of that, I think, when it comes down to GIS, it boils down to points, lines, and polygons, right? And so that is the first critical component. But that data, just by itself doesn't have much meaning. Oftentimes, you need to take that next step. And that next step is visualizing that data on maps and being able to geolocate it, see it on a map, and really have it make sense, apply it to a certain use case. And so that's kind of that next level of the GIS maturity scale. And then the last element is using all that great data, the points, the lines, the polygons, the web maps, to analyze and derive value out of it. So having the weather data in the same platform as you have all your other geospatial data is critical and will allow you to make decisions. We want this information to drive decisions. And all that good work that we've done there has no use if it's not received by the end user. Typically, what we find for those who do rely on public sources of weather information during high impact weather events, it causes major spikes in demand on those public services. We have special licensing with Esri. Not only I've in literally 15 feet behind my back, we've got satellite dishes reliably bringing in that data. And then we have special licensing with Esri to where we are able to automatically scale based on demand. So you're going to be getting that crucial data when you need it the most. You'll be getting it quickly and reliably.
And Dan, on days like today, we have a lot of weather going on. We've had already a lot of weather this spring. So we know quite well here at Barron, been around for 35 years. We've seen the peaks and the valleys of that demand. So that's critical for keeping the data up and running. And speaking of that, I want to also dive right into an event that we want to show historically from the earlier severe weather outbreak that occurred in northern Illinois. So let me share that. And we will talk about an event that happened on March the 10th in northern Illinois. This is what Corey was talking about, south of Chicago. So we had many events to choose from this spring already. Severe weather season has really started to flourish and in unusual places as well. So Dan and I looked at an event from February, and then we had an event from March and another event from March, and we chose this one to kind of showcase some of the premium weather data from Barron. But first, I want to kind of set it up for you. This was a highly unusual event for this time of year. Notice the climatology for March is heavily focused in the deep south, the portions of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. But the tornadoes this go around occurred here in northern Illinois. There's the tornado tracks. So many businesses were still, dealing with snow piles. They had to trade their snow shovels for storm shelters in a matter of a week's time. The risk, though, was identified several days out, despite it being something unusual. Our public data from the Storm Prediction Center was highlighting this several days in advance. This is a look at the risk 48 hours prior to the actual cells developing. The Barron forecast model was also showing the tracks of supercells. This is a max cell statistic of the forecast model that's available as a GIS service of where the rotating storms would go. We had rotating storms, we had potentially hail producing storms. Again, this was the model run 48 hours out, and we had several model runs in a row showing this. So as we got to 12 hours out, confidence was increasing here that this could be an extreme event because the data continued to show these tracks in northern Illinois. And here's a look at the model run from the morning of March the 10th. Let me walk you through briefly the timeline, and then I'm going to let Dan show some of the premium weather data from Barron. But just to kind of orient yourself with where it happened before he shows some of those other products, this is just a look at the radar data. And this first supercell developed there northeast of Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, shortly after 4 p.m. It quickly became hail producing. This is a picture just after 4 o'clock. It already had a wall cloud. And then as the storm moved closer to Kankakee, Illinois, it started to exhibit rotation. It did briefly produce a tornado near Pontiac. But the big story here was the hail. Kankakee was about to get hit with potentially baseball size hail or larger. This was record setting hail in this part of Illinois. So that was the storyline in the 6 o'clock hour. But shortly thereafter, as we get closer to 6:30, the storm, as expected, started rotating very quickly. So the narrative changed from hail to a tornado that did drop down just south of Kankakee. And the storm continued to move into portions of Indiana. It was a long track supercell, but it wasn't the only one. There were other supercells developing out there to the west as well. So, Dan, this is becoming quite a complicated scenario, and it basically highlights the importance of having those products that focus specifically on a particular hazard.
Yes, that's correct. And, for Jeff and I as meteorologists, we can look at a storm and diagnose where the dangers are. And so if you look panel there, that is the radar and the lightning with local storm reports. This is at 6 o'clock, and Jeff and I are meteorologists, but most of our customers are not. And so we need to provide data in a manner that is easy to understand for decision makers, and bonus, easy to integrate into GIS so that you can bring this into your geospatial platform and derive value out of it. So looking at the premium Barron data on the right. So what we're displaying here is our severe hail path. And it is a probabilistic product that shows the likelihood that hail is now falling in the storm or has fallen over the past hour. As you go from those pink colors into the black, that is a higher likelihood that hail is falling in the storm. And this is being produced in near real time every 5 minutes. So you're able to tell, first of all, is hail a component in the storm, which it very much was on this day, as Jeff mentioned, record-setting hail, and which parts of my community or organization are going to be impacted. So that hail path is going to tell you what's going on right now. But we have other tools as well. We have something called Storm Intel, and those polygons are basically meant to identify the threat, tell you where it is now, where it's going, and when it's going to be there. And so Jeff has clicked on a part of that storm, and you're able to see multiple different data sets, including that time of arrival. So for any assets or any communities in the path, you can see that it's a 10 to 15 minute estimate of arrival. And then we have other information too. We have something called the Barron Tornado Index, which right now is a 4.7. That is an easy to understand 10-point scale, 1 to 10, 10 being the highest likelihood that there's a damaging tornado in that storm. And it's another value add that we provide so that you don't need to be an expert in radar analysis to determine what the threats are. And one other element that I'll mention, there are multiple polygons on the screen there. The larger ones, the orange ones, you can see encompass more of the total storm where there's high wind being produced. Whereas the red polygon is for identifying the tornado, the tornadic part of the storm. So, same storm producing multiple different weather perils of severe hail path, the damaging wind. So many different elements, and we want to make it easy for you to understand and take the proper action. So looking at the damaging wind path, that is the trail that you see behind the storm there. Those greens and yellows and into the red colors. This designates where that tornado was doing damage, and it did hop, skip, and jump a little bit. It produced damage. This is going to work well whether it's a tornado or a straight line wind event. You're going to be able to tell. And again, this is being produced in near real time every 5 minutes as the event is unfolding. It's going to answer those questions. Is there damaging wind in the storm? And if so, where are the impacts? And so we can tell you where that's been, and then the storm intel polygons can tell you where it's going and how that threat is going to evolve. It's, as Jeff mentioned, this initially was a hail threat and really became a tornado threat as it went towards Kankakee and over the border into Indiana.
Yeah, Dan, and sometimes in this particular situation, the hail path and the tornado path was co-located quite well, but not all the time in a severe weather situation. Sometimes the hail storm could be producing hail, which in this case, I think at this moment, the storm north of here, up near Chicago, is mostly a hail producer. Look at all those hail reports, right? But the storm near Kankakee was producing a tornado. And guess what? We have data. We have data suggesting in this same area today. Can't make this up, right? That
Deja
severe
vu.
weather. Yeah, that severe weather is going to occur now. Thankfully, it looks like the trends today have suggested that the highest risks are going to be a little south and east, maybe closer to where Corey is in Indianapolis today. But let me show you on our data discovery set. This is our sales enablement tool that solution engineers at GEO Jobe and at Esri will use to communicate our data. We do have a free version of this as well so that you can freely browse the data. I went to a page that highlights the Barron model, and I wanted to show you that literally today, at not around the same time between, well, this is a little later 8 or 9 o'clock today, we have the Barron model suggesting a line of storms will be moving into northern Illinois. And some of these storms could be severe. There is a severe weather risk, and it looks like the stronger chances or the higher chances are over here in Indiana and Ohio. One other thing that I wanted to share with you, we have several data layers that help you assess the impact of a major event afterwards, like we have done. Of course, we've gone back in time. Power outages is a really popular data layer that we provide for GIS. I'm going to look at it live. I don't think there's probably much out there currently. I'd be shocked if there was. Well, we got some sporadic outages, but let's go to some sample data from a really large event in the central United States. And you can see that these are county-based with numbers that represent the total number of customers. And also in the metadata is the total number or the percentage of customers within each county. So this is a good tool also to kind of assess the impacts in addition to our severe weather swaths that occur. So we have real-time data going on today, Dan. We might have some flooding in the Midwest because we've got multiple events this spring hitting the same areas. But what we haven't talked about yet is that last mile that you showed earlier. But we can do that. When the data is a GIS service and it fits in the platform, you can easily produce dashboards. And I think you have one to show off from a really horrific event last year in Texas. This is going to be a mock-up of what could have happened with a dashboard for that county there in Texas, Stan.
Thanks. And Jeff, if you can confirm, you can see my screen.
I can, yes. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So yes. So Jeff mentioned that last mile, and when we talk about that last mile, that is, in my opinion, is combining weather information with other geospatial data, applying it to a use case to drive decisions. So I think this example here that we have from the Texas flood event that happened in early July of last year, I think this is a really good example of achieving that last mile. So we have several different data sets on the screen here. The upper left, we have radar and watches and warnings. The upper right, we have something called the Barron flash flood risk. This is a 2-hour nowcast that will tell you if flash flooding is likely. We actually break it down into 30-minute segments through the next 2 hours. We'll tell you if your risk is elevated or if it's high or very high. And then in the bottom left, we do our own analysis of the radar accumulation. So in the bottom left, we have the amount of rain that's fallen over the past hour. And then in the bottom right, we have the amount of rain that's fallen over the past 24 hours. And I want to break this down because there's actually a lot going in here. A lot going on here. So pay attention to the upper right here. We have the Guadalupe River Basin outlined in white. And then the red areas that you see, those are FEMA flood zones within that. And so we already know what the vulnerable areas are just based on that information alone. But when you take live weather information in the same platform, it really gives you insights that you otherwise wouldn't have. You can start to quantify what the impacts are. So this is a time series. I'm going to go through time here from early on in the event. And as I step through, you'll see not only the data starting to become more severe, so you see in the flash flood risk that red, that highest level, and then these purple colors in the rain accumulation, which are representing 7 to 8 inches of rain. But I want to call your attention to these upper right sections. That is the structures in the homes that are in danger. So now you've got your geospatial data and the weather data, which we've made easy to understand. Flash flood risk, assessing this is where your flash flooding is going to be. But now you've got all that data in the same platform, and you're able to see what is the impact. So how many structures in homes do I have that are in these highly vulnerable areas that are experiencing either the highest level of our flash flood risk, or an inch or more of rain, or 24 or 4 inches or more over the past 24 hours. So there's a lot of geospatial operations that you could do. The joins, the intersects of the weather data with the other geospatial data, and you could perform additional analysis. So if you look in the bottom right, we've summarized, okay, well, what are the max values? In this case, the flash flood risk, we are capped to that very high. We've got that 1 hour rainfall rates of 3 to 4 inches just in 1 hour alone. And then in the past 24 hours, some areas experiencing 8 to 10 inches of rain. And you can also combine that with National Weather Service information. You can see that our products were already indicating there's going to be a high flash flood risk, but you can see, okay, well, now National Weather Service has issued a flash flood emergency. You can take that other geospatial data, the structures of the homes, and see what the impact is. And that could be anything that you have mapped. It could be infrastructure, roadways. It could be power lines. It could be hospitals, storm shelters, schools, anything. And so that is the real power of combining weather information with your other geospatial data in the same format, so that those data sets can work together to provide you those additional insights.
Good stuff, Dan. And that's like a triple intersection if you're keeping score at home, right? We're intersecting areas that are just vulnerable on a sunny day if there wasn't rain because they're already in a FEMA flood zone. But also when you compound that with a warning, and then even further with premium weather data from Barron. I'm going to go ahead and share one more slide that kind of communicates the power of this, the data that kind of is more impact based for decision making. I know this is your favorite slide, Dan, but I'm going to go ahead and share it. And I want to get I got too many things going on my screen here. So this is going to be a reanalysis of the floods that happened, or not the floods, a severe thunderstorm line that was coming through Houston, Texas. So, this is just what a normal radar would look like. Many of us see this in our weather apps on our phones. You got lightning and stuff like that. But even if you don't want to build a dashboard, you can just apply different symbology when the data is a GIS service that highlights, in this case, it's going to be the oil platforms and the ports that are affected by lightning within their 8 mile radius. So just using symbology, we can easily tell where we need to commission resources to respond to significant weather. So all of these data layers that we've been talking about today are available in any software that ArcGIS provides. They're basically system ready, works out of the box. It's literally a software as a service that goes into your GIS application, including, of course, ArcGIS Online, Map Viewer, ArcGIS Pro. We also have a branded connector in ArcGIS Velocity that makes it super easy to trigger alerts based on thresholds that you decide and timing that you decide for any of the data layers that are in ArcGIS Velocity. So with that, I think I'm going to toss it back to Corey, unless Dan, you have anything else to add. I think we're maybe wrapping up here and ready for some Q&A. So.
Awesome. Sorry, I had to get everything back up. I think I even needed to reshare my slides. That was great. I think everyone probably learned a lot about your offerings, and that was really good to see that Kankakee-based storm, and talk about Chicago Cup. So anyway, moving forward, we are going to do some Q&A, and we had some Q&A come in, and let me actually access it. And I'm just going to basically freeform read them, and then Dan and Jeff, feel free to answer them. How about that? So on the first one, and I'll get to the first one in a minute. This next one says, how far back does your historical data go?
So it depends on the data sets. We have actually over 300 weather data layers between real-time and forecast weather information. We do archive our real-time weather information at the same increments that we produce it. Typically I'd say maybe like 8 to 10 years on most of our data sets, but we are always adding and making new data products, so that can really vary. Today we are still productizing how our customers can access that historical data. We do have it. We use it in all of our our use cases, our historical case studies. But yeah, right now we are still converting that for GIS use for the end user.
Perfect. Moving on to the next one. What is the average latency between the even? Hold on. What is the average latency between the even and updating the maps data?
Yeah, I can take that. Every data layer differs a little bit in how frequently it comes to our server. But on average, a real-time weather product is between 2 and 5 minutes in terms of like radar-derived products. Products that are more geared toward analysis after the storm, such as rainfall accumulation, power outages. I think power outages may be pretty frequent too, but some of those products may have a little bit of a longer latency just because they have a little more processing that's taking place.
Perfect. And the next one, do you offer any international data?
I can show some of that, Dan, on our sales
Yeah.
enablement.
This is actually, I was just going to add that this is actually one of our latest offerings that we have. And so, yeah, Jeff, if you
let me stop sharing.
Share that.
And then Jeff, you should be good to go.
Yeah. So, and we'll be happy to follow up in an email to all of our attendees with a link to how to view this data. And kind of, we have you can filter by global. We do have several new products and several that are marked soon. Our development team has just built something that's really groundbreaking globally, filling in all the gaps with really high quality analysis data. There's 13 of these products. I can maybe pull up global. I don't know. Let's look at global winds, maybe. Let me do a rapid analysis. I don't. So we have a. Let me just show you some sample data from this. It's not available yet, but it's very close to being available. But we're filling in all the gaps. So it's a really. I think I chose wind direction. I probably should have chose wind speeds.
There you go.
But this will make a little more sense. But this was a big cyclone that hit northern Europe late last year, and so this data is smoothed. The actual raw data will be available, per pixel for analytics. But this will really help mariners, shipping interests out in the ocean where there's just not a lot of ground truth or any ground truth. A lot of this is satellite derived and model blended. So it is a derived product We also offer, of course, the global tracking of tropical systems. I think we have a product called the Extreme Weather Index. Dan, you want to talk a little bit about the value of that? It's a
Yes.
global forecast model.
Yes, it's a global forecast and it's meant to highlight impactful weather. So we have different elements of it. The one that Jeff is bringing up here is the one for rain. So this is going to highlight
Oh,
where
wow.
impactful rain is expected. And you can see in the Middle East that there is going to be some very impactful rain over the next 7 days. For rainfall, it's a three-color scale. That bright green is the lowest end, and then the darker green, and then finally the really, really dark green. That represents excessive rainfall predicted that is climatologically adjusted. So I like to give the example. So I grew up in the north, and a couple inches of snow has no impact. We just go about our everyday lives. I now live in Alabama, where barren weather is based, and that same amount of snow has a different impact. So it's going to be adjusted accordingly on our index scale, so that you know whether it's a high impact event or not.
And Dan, I guess today, right now, this is one of our global products. It's a satellite-derived radar. I would say in the United States, especially in Florida, if you see this in radar, it's just an average day in the summer. But that's a pretty big deal to have that type of reflectivity over the desert. So this is definitely, to your point, an extreme event that's lining up with the extreme weather index. Corey, we'll take the next question.
Perfect. And if y'all want to just keep your product up, because if we have to go back into that, I don't have to have the Q&A, but let's do the Q&A. I'll leave the Q&A slide down for now. We'll just look like this. Let me turn my video back on. Let's see. Okay, so answer live. Sorry, done. All right. If a natural disaster occurs and someone wants to purchase your services, how fast can they gain access to the data?
Yeah, from a technological standpoint, it's very easy. It's very quick. We have structure in place to do that. Usually what takes the longest is the contract part, but it's these our data sets are offered typically on an a la carte basis, and so it's a subscription service. You are only going to pay for the data sets that are applicable to you, that you'd like to come under contract for. Usually they're available as a map service and a feature service. Our forecast elements are usually only a map service, just due to some of the challenges of working with time enabled data. But we can get people up and running quickly, whether it's a trial or full out, hey, I need to become a customer. I know this is going to make a difference for us.
Awesome. Perfect, perfect. Moving on. And I think actually what you showed previously is going to cover this question, but since they decided to submit it, I'm going to read it anyway. So this looks like it has some great data for local communities and even regions where you're gathering the data. But can you share some insight into your data for coastal southeast? I think that means southeast communities and hurricane preparedness and or immediate response.
Yeah, I'll take that, Dan. With the, I think we can even filter by tropical weather. So we do have some data products to handle that. We have we have wave heights and stuff as well for marine interests, wave direction. So the full suite of the tropical weather products from the National Hurricane Center, in terms of the track and the watches and warnings available. We have things that make sense along the coastline, wind gusts over the last 24 hours, so you can assess response. We have our Barron model that has the forecasted speeds and the forecasted gusts and the forecasted maximum values over the next 24 hours, so you can see what is the top threshold you have to prepare for. The favorite spaghetti plots, of course, and the wind speed probabilities. Dan, am I missing out on anything that's coastal?
Well, I tell you what, if you show the 2024 year in review, the landfalling hurricanes, I think that will
Oh,
show a few more data sets here. And let's focus in on Helene. So the bottom row there in the middle, and
got
then
it. You've
click
done
on
this a few times.
Helene. Yeah. And it's important, right, to have highly local data, and that's one of our big differentiators. we want to give you 100% coverage over your entire area of concern, not just the data for the closest airport. And so with Helene, this was an interesting weather system here because the threats were different, same storm, but the threats were different depending on where you are at. So right now, Jeff is showing the maximum wind speeds there. So you can see those purple colors there just to the right of the track. That represents our current wind speed product that updates every 5 minutes and gives you data everywhere. Again, not just at the nearest airport. And the highest winds were in the Big Bend of Florida near where the landfall was. You could see that there were gusts approaching 100 miles per hour. And those purple areas there represent that 90 plus mile per hour range. So highly local, have the data everywhere. But that system quickly went from a wind threat to more of a flood threat. And I think that that's Helene's, unfortunate claim to fame was the amount of rain that it produced. So those, I guess, magenta or pink color areas there in the Western Carolinas, and then even into Eastern Tennessee represent total rainfall amounts that were measured in feet. So, we see approaching 2 feet of rain in the Western Carolinas, which caused a whole host of flooding problems. And if we go to that next element, the flash flood risk, part of why that event was so significant is that in the days prior to that, there was rainfall completely unrelated to the tropical system that already saturated the area. And then you get a tropical system on top of that. This flash flood risk takes into account the historical element. So how much rain has this area recently received, and then takes that, combines it with how much rain is expected and known thresholds for those specific local areas to determine, okay, how much rain historically has it taken for there to be a problem here? And so that is one of the powerful elements of our flash flood risk is it's tracking all of that information, the history, the amount of rain that's already fallen, how much rain typically causes a problem, and how much rain is there going to be, so we can break it down and give you a highly local assessment as to flooding is going to be, because a lot of people today rely on a flood watch from the National Weather Service, and emergency managers, for example, say that's helpful but not actionable. And what I mean by that is, typically it covers a whole county, oftentimes other counties around you, is valid for the next 12 to 14 hours. Ours is much higher spatial resolution, and it's shorter fuse. It's going to tell you with up to 2 hours lead time where you're going to have a flash flood problem. So lots of data for highly local analysis, even on the coasts.
Perfect. Perfect. And if the audience doesn't know, these guys know their weather. That's for sure. I'm learning a lot just being in here. All right. Next question here. We saw the live dashboard in action. How customizable are those reviews for different teams or use cases? For example, could an emergency management team and a utility operations team each have a tailored experience within the same ArcGIS environment?
Yeah, I'll take that, Dan. We certainly would. We are, there's a thing called ArcGIS Solutions that Esri offers out of the box. However, enterprise, a customer can on their enterprise server can build their own solution. We are also in the middle of building an arrangement of items that can be put into something that is a complete solution. I think this is a great question, Corey. Dan, I think we get asked this all the time. I like your data, but I need something that already works on the screen, and I don't have to put it all together myself, right? I think that's the general feeling we get. This is our second year as an Esri partner, and we are definitely hearing that loud and clear, Corey, that is something that we should effort to make as a product.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm jumping ahead on the list here because someone did ask, do you have a list of organizations or partners that say someone could work with to configure and stand up GIS apps with your data? I can think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, but you're a Cubs fan.
we love working with GEO Jobe. That's the great thing about the partnership is that we know each other's products. GEO Jobe is accustomed to working with our data for their customers, and then like Jeff was saying, we use their tools and solutions in our environment as well. So I think that's one of the true strengths of having a partnership is that we're used to working with each other. We know what our strengths are, and we can put those together to get you added value.
And Dan, we love listening to potential customers, even if they're not a contractual customer yet. We love listening to their needs and understanding their use cases because they are quite unique from sector to sector.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, next one here, as weather events become more severe and unpredictable, how does Barron Weather's data scale to handle high demand situations like a major storm event when operational awareness is most critical?
And that's you, I think.
Yes. Yeah, we've been doing this a long time. So we are constantly innovating. We were issuing site-specific warnings when National Weather Service, for example, is still issuing countywide warnings and distributing data in manners that are easy to understand. And even before the internet era, we were delivering data and warnings via calls to cell phones or emails and things like that. So we have a lot of data. We're always innovating. And we have the tools that are time tested, those storm intel polygons. We first had that technology available for television stations. So when you're watching the weather segment on the news, they're doing live storm tracking. That's technology that's been in front of millions of eyes and helped millions and millions of people. And so, yeah, so it's time tested. We've got the data available, and we're always innovating, creating new products like that extreme weather index, the rapid analysis, things of that sort.
Perfect. Perfect. So, before I get to the next one, someone did say I think Dan, I don't know if it's Dan or Jeff, who has this, it says, please show your screen with the three levels of services.
Got it. I saw that, and I'm looking ahead to there, Corey. I think getting a lot of these use case
Yeah.
questions, right? So
Yeah.
happy to dive
So
into that.
yeah, we offer our data, like I said, on an a la carte basis. They kind of fall into three different pricing tiers. That standard data, so typically you're going to be able to find that data elsewhere, publicly available. But the difference is that ours is backed by that high availability stack. So when everyone is relying on the public sources for information during high impact weather, and they're getting latencies and slowdowns or outages even, ours is running flawlessly with that high availability stack. And then advanced data, that's something where we have added, some enhancement to the data. So, for example, our radar feed is more than just radar. We're decluttering it. We are applying a precipitation type mask to it. So now okay, what I see on the radar, it's snow or freezing rain or just your everyday liquid rainfall. So that's the advanced data category. And then the premium data, that's typically proprietary data to Barron are very difficult to come by. So that would be things like our road weather conditions. So what is the impact of weather on the roadways, or strike by strike lightning data? So that premium data, it's kind of our top tier, and you're able to really get great value and benefit from the weather expertise that we have and we're providing to you as a GIS data service.
Perfect. Perfect and awesome. So, the next one I'm looking at is, can they use GEO Event Server instead of Velocity?
Yeah, we have a
Uh,
number of customers using that. You can use both. That's the great thing. When we had the ArcGIS System Ready specialty, we also have the ArcGIS State and Local Government specialty. Um, but yeah, so we have customers, for example, like pipeline companies that need real-time weather rainfall accumulation. They know where their pipelines are. They need to know where that intersects with where rainfall is happening and do so in an objective manner. They use GEO Event Server to identify areas where they've had rainfall exceed a certain threshold. It sends an alert, a notification that could be, via email or text message. And then velocity, is in the same line, right? It's using data in real time to trigger some kind of workflow, such as a text message or an email. I think there's even maybe what Teams and Slack integration as well.
Perfect. And let's see, I'm going to jump to this one at the bottom. Are we permitted to use your archive data to create and sell derived products like custom risk assessments or predictive models for our clients?
Yeah, I'll take that, Dan, because that's what I've been doing with these event analysis. So as we're still adding a lot of products to our GIS server, and as many, if you're pretty experienced with GIS and ArcGIS, you know that adding time to a data layer prevents a whole different kind of ballgame and how you use it. So that does present challenges. We're still investigating or listening to the use cases for archive data, but we do have a very robust API that goes back some data layers as early as or late as 2006. So that is something that can be custom. We can provide access, and you can write your own custom scripts to pull that data for whatever modeling you would need. That's probably going to be the best use case or the best product, Dan, right? For something that's a lot of data in the archival sense.
Yes, agreed. Yep.
Awesome. And I believe you all have answered this, but sometimes we got to hear it again. So that's good. So is your data or are your data subscription bundled to include all weather layers, or are they purchased individually based on specific threat types?
Yeah, so it's the a la carte model
Yep.
that we have, and we're happy, to make recommendations. That's one of my roles is to kind of listen to the challenges of our customers and be that weather expert and recommend, okay, based on those challenges, I'd recommend this and that data service that's gonna minimize the impact to your operations. So yes, it's an a la carte model, and you're not going to be paying for anything that you're not using.
Perfect. And there's one up there earlier about symbology, but I think that's more was in the context of what you're showing. I guess Jeff and Dan, there's one more in there. Do you guys want to tackle that one? I don't want to speak on your behalf.
Licensing for consulting firms, is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So,
it's
yeah, we are one of the things that and if you ask Esri this, especially, they'll say that we are very easy to work with. We're very flexible. We want to, achieve the mission that our customers have in utilizing weather data. So, we will listen to any arrangement that makes sense in terms of licensing and try and make a difference.
Perfect. So besides that one, which I don't think we need to tackle, that is all the questions in the Q&A. That was quite a bit we went through. So that was
yeah.
that was that was good. I've done a lot of these, and that was a lot of questions. So I appreciate everybody. Probably should share my screen again because we got like 2 or 3 more slides to wrap this thing up, and we got 8 minutes to go, and I think we can get there. So let me just hit share. All right, the final poll. I told you there was 2. So this is the second one. Final poll, and there's Jonah. Was there anything presented in this webinar that interested you? And it looks like there's a couple different options there, from Barron storm intel, severe path layers, the Barron model, flash flood risk, and then other. So again, we'll give you probably about 25 seconds.
I didn't have my Jeopardy music queued up.
Jonah wanted me to play music, and I turned it down. So all right, I'm sure the responses are rolling in. Got about 15 to go. All All right, Jonah, go ahead and close it out. All right. Was there anything presented in this webinar that interested you? So 57% said the Barron Storm Intel, 71% said severe path layers, 39% the Barron model, and I believe that says 54% the flash flood risk, and then other at 18%. That is a pretty good distribution, I would say. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. That poll really helps make sure that the content in the webinar was relevant and useful, and you got something out of it, which I believe that you did. And if I move on, the final details. So I'll cover like to the right over here. Obviously, you can go to barronweather.com to learn more. You could reach out to sales at geo-jobe.com, and we can connect you with the Barron folks directly as well. As far as the free trials are, there's free trials available. I guess I'll let Jeff and Dan speak to how you guys would handle a trial process.
Yeah, we try to make it as streamlined as possible. Great question. If it's an online trial, it's pretty streamlined and seamless. We do that through ArcGIS group sharing. And then if you want a trial for an enterprise server, we can provide that as well. That may be just a small delay, but the ArcGIS online is pretty quick. And Dan, I think we recommend that they set up a meeting with you, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And we'll typically do, very brief rundown, a trial kickoff more or less with you to make sure that you're able to access the data and you understand the data sets you have available. So it's the best way is just to get a meeting scheduled and we'll kick you off.
And then this is, I guess, this is the question I'm just thinking about since I've got a couple minutes. In terms of a trial, is there a certain duration that y'all generally like to do? Is there like a certain amount of time?
Typically, it's a 30-day trial, and generally that will cover what everyone needs. It's really easy to integrate. So getting the data into your GIS system isn't necessarily the challenge. It's, sometimes building things out of it, right? Like, making dashboards and things like that that require a little bit more time. And then feedback within an organization too. Oftentimes the GIS professional is going to be building something for somebody else or for some other department, and it takes time to gather that feedback as well. And if there is, if it's a quiet 30 days of weather for your community, we're flexible. We'll work with you to get you the data so that you can see how useful it is.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm sure if there's anyone who's a GIS professional on here, they know that feedback loop from solutioning a solution and then putting it out there and then getting millions of requests back about changing little things, right? It can get kind of tedious. Like I said, they're a great partner. They're good people to us. They'll be great people to you as well. Last but not least, and look at that, we're 4 minutes early, so we did this thing well. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. With that, I'll also say thank you to Dan. Thank you to Jeff. You guys did a heck of a job. This was a great webinar, and I think everyone learned a lot.
Thank you for including
Thanks,
us.
everyone.
We enjoyed it. Yeah.
Awesome. So with that, I think we're done. Bye, everybody.